Yeah, so I'm going to talk tonight about income assistance and social hiring in the downtown east side. So this past summer, I was a research assistant in a collaborative research project that looked at income assistance and social hiring between the local economic development lab, which is actually a joint initiative of Radius SFU and EcoTrust Canada, a nonprofit, and Potluck Cafe and Catering Incorporated, which is a social enterprise in the downtown east side. So I'm going to take you through a story of a person to kind of encapsulate some of the themes of my research. So this is George. George is 37 years old and has been living in the downtown east side for 20 years. He has experienced a number of incidents of severe trauma in his life, which have led to chronic pain, mental health issues, and a battle with addictions as an attempt to self-medicate. When George engages with income assistance workers, they don't ask questions about his experiences, or at least to elicit these kinds of experiences, and he doesn't disclose them because he doesn't feel dignified in doing so. With this, George only receives basic welfare from the province and isn't entitled to any of the benefits of a person deemed to be experiencing multiple barriers. Except George is often referred to this by people in the community all the time. George is what the province calls employment obligated, meaning that the government has deemed him capable of full-time work. While it's assumed that people who are employment obligated will only be on assistance temporarily, George has been on and off assistance for several years. His check affords him just over $100 a month for necessities like food, after paying around $500 in rent, which is the average rental rate of a single-room occupancy in Vancouver. George has a flexible part-time job as a gardener. He's allowed to make $200 a month at his job on top of his monthly assistance. After surpassing this $200, any income he earns is clawed back dollar for dollar from his assistance check. This is meant to be an incentive to get people into full-time employment and move off of assistance. George really likes his job, and he's noticed positive changes in his health and social circles since he started. However, he's adamant that he not earn more than his allowable earnings of $200, even though he wants to and can work more. His biggest fear is losing his benefits. He has gotten full-time work in the past and been unable to sustain it because of the instability of his health. If this were to happen again, he could be worse off. He could lose his housing and would have to go through the cumbersome process of reapplying for assistance. So George works for a social enterprise, which we've already heard about tonight. And the social enterprise is engaged in social hiring, so that's a business that hires and supports people like George who experience barriers to traditional employment. So this is his boss, John. John acts as an advocate for George to help him navigate the complicated income assistance system. So he'll often call the income assistance information line to get questions that George has answered about his benefits. This takes time away from the many other responsibilities required to run a business, but John is often the best person positioned to help George in his situation. He's seen improvements in George since he started working and wants him to work more. He believes that the more George works, the more employable he becomes. Having George work more would also create greater stability in his business and make scheduling easier. John is frustrated in the all-or-nothing approach to employment, as well as the lack of government support he receives for the important role his social enterprise plays in creating employment opportunities in the downtown east side. So while this is just one story, George's experience is representative of broader themes that we kind of drew from this diverse downtown east side community. So the first one is that structural barriers are not being recognized, so this can lead to some miscategorization of income assistance recipients. And especially barriers like addiction and intergenerational trauma tend to not be recognized through this system, and these are both aspects that are particularly salient to the downtown east side. Secondly, dollar-for-dollar clawbacks disincentivize further employment, and this prevents people from realizing their full potential. Related to this, flexible part-time work isn't valued. There's no transition between the small amount of allowable earnings and full-time employment, and there's no acknowledgement that part-time work is an important step towards self-sufficiency. And finally, social enterprises are being negatively affected by these policies. Employers are picking up some of the slack created by the gaps in policy, yet they're not doing anything, or they're doing all of this without any support from the province. So it kind of can impact their business in a real way. So while there are many people who question why folks in the downtown east side can't just go get a job, this research shows that there are many barriers that are inherent to the very policies that aim to facilitate employment. So what? Why should this matter to us, specifically those of us that are affiliated with SFU? Well, first of all, given the theme SFU Innovates, it's important to recognize that social enterprises provide an innovative way to create employment opportunities, especially in the downtown east side. It's even more important given where SFU Vancouver is located and the ongoing gentrification of this neighborhood. So one of SFU's goals is to engage communities, and perhaps the best way to do so is to start with the community that we are located in. So the more we know, the better we are situated in contributing to innovative ways to enhance economic and social well-being in the downtown east side. So stay tuned for a final report of this research. It hasn't been released yet. The plans moving forward are to engage government on the findings. And on top of that, for my Masters of Public Policy program, I am going to write my capstone on this topic. So I'm going to look at different innovative policy solutions to some of the problems that I spoke about today. Thank you.